Rain fell hard on the steel rooftops of Colony Station 9. Thick clouds rolled across the sky like dark waves, flashing with silent lightning. Wind howled through the trees, bending them like soft wire. Everyone inside the colony moved fast doors, slammed, windows locked, and the emergency lights turned red. Lex Hart stood alone in the open. His boots sank slightly into the wet ground. His brown jacket flapped in the wind, but he didn't move. He stood still, his eyes closed. He sniffed the air. Something's off, he whispered. Behind him, a security officer ran up. Sergeant. Hart, get inside. Command says this storm could turn violent. Lex opened his eyes slowly. It's not the storm I'm worried about, the officer frowned. What do you mean? Lex shook his head. Smell the air. Can't you feel it? It's not just water and mud. There's something strange, something burnt, something wrong. The officer sniffed quickly. I smell rain, maybe some metal, that's it. Lex took a deep breath again, ignoring the thazy. Officer. He wasn't like most soldiers. He grew up in Earth's last deep forests, trained to track, hunt, and survive with nothing but his senses. And right now, his nose told him one thing: this wasn't nature. He turned toward the hills. Beyond the colony wall, the clouds above them didn't swirl like normal. They spun too smoothly, like a machine turning gears. He whispered again, this storm is fake. Back in the command center, Lex stood in front of the colony leaders. A large screen behind him showed storm patterns. The others in the room looked annoyed or tired. They didn't like being told their high-tech systems had missed something. Captain Doran leaned back in his chair. You're saying the storm is what? Alien-made? I'm not guessing, sir, Lex replied. I've tracked wildfires across the Rockies and lived through acid storms on Mars. I know natural weather. This isn't it. And your proof? The captain asked. Lex looked around the room. The smell. There's a trace of silicon, like a burnt circuit. And something synthetic, maybe oil or plasma coolant. It's in the rain. Barely, but it's there. The scientist laughed quietly. You expect us to believe a human nose can detect that? Lex stayed calm. I'm not asking you to believe. I'm asking you to check. Doran stood. We've scanned everything. No unusual radiation, no unknown tech. If there's something out there, we'd know. Dismissed. Lex clenched his jaw, then nodded and left. Later that night, Lex sat on top of a tower, watching the storm move across the valley. His visor scanned for life signs. Nothing. But his nose, he sniffed again. There it was. A sharp, bitter smell. Like melted plastic. Like broken wires. But this time, it was stronger. He climbed down fast and slipped through the outer gates. The colony had shut itself in, but Lex had clearance. His boots splashed through mud in shallow water. Every few steps he stopped and sniffed. He followed. The scent like a trail. Lightning cracked above. For a second, everything lit up bright white, and Lex saw it. A shadow. Huge, round, half buried in the side of a hill. Covered in vines and rock. It wasn't a hill. It was a machine. Lex ducked low and crawled closer. The smell now filled his lungs. Sharp and electric. He reached the edge and placed a hand on the surface. It was smooth. Too smooth, like polished steel. It hummed beneath his fingers. Suddenly, a soft click echoed around him. A small panel opened. Near his hand, a glowing blue eye blinked awake inside. Lex froze. The eye scanned him. Then, without warning, it shut off. The panel closed. The machine made no sound. What the hell are you? He whispered back at his quarters. Lex uploaded his visor footage. He stared at the still image of the half-buried machine. No logos. No markings. Not even a heat signature. Cloak tech, he muttered. They're hiding it in plain sight. He sent the data to Earth Command. The reply came fast. No known tech matches your report. Keep observing. Do not engage. Lex sighed. They don't believe it either. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A low rumble shook the walls. He ran to the window. The storm had moved back fast and direct. It was circling the colony now. Lex's heart pounded. He grabbed his gear and rushed back to the outer wall. Outside, wind tore through the valley. Trees fell like dominoes. The smell now punched him in the face. Burnt plastic, ozone, chemicals. Lightning struck close. The ground shook, and from it rose 3 long towers. They weren't natural. They were part of the buried machine. Lex gasped. It's activating. He ran back to the tower and turned on the colony's outside speakers. He didn't wait for permission. Everyone listen. The storm isn't real. It's alien. There's a machine buried in the hills. It's coming online. I don't know what it wants, but we can't ignore this. People started gathering near windows. Sirens began to wail. The captain appeared on Lex's screen. You broke protocol, Hart. I saved lives, Lex shouted. Scan the hills again. Use deep surface radar. You'll see I'm right. Moments later, the screen behind the captain showed a new image. 3 giant shapes beneath the earth. Moving. The room went quiet. Captain Doran said, Get every soldier to the perimeter. As the colony braced for an attack, Lex stood at the front gate, watching the storm. The rain now fell upward. Gravity had changed. The sky blinked like static. And then, a shape stepped out of the storm. It was tall, metallic, walking on 3 legs. Its arms spun like drills. A machine, but alive. Breathing steam. A scout. It didn't roar. It didn't attack. It sniffed the air. Lex narrowed his eyes. You smell it too, huh? He raised his rifle but didn't fire. Not yet, because something else moved behind it. Another machine. Larger, with glowing blue lines running across its body. Then another. 3 machines. Then 6. The invasion had begun. But Lex noticed something the others didn't. The first scout turned its head slightly, then backed away. It wasn't attacking. It was confused. Lex suddenly realized the truth. They don't know we can smell them, he whispered. That was their mistake. That was humanity's edge, and he would use it. Whatever these machines were, they had hidden in storm clouds, hoping to blend in, using sensors and false signals. But they didn't count on one human. One man trained in nature, who trusted his instincts more than machines. Lex Hart didn't have special weapons. He had something better. A nose that smelled trouble coming, and a mind that would stop it. The battle hadn't even started yet. But already, Lex had found their weakness, and he would make them regret ever stepping onto Earth soil. The sky above Colony Station 9 was still dark. The storm hadn't ended. Instead, it hovered like a predator, watching. Rain didn't fall steadily anymore. It came in strange bursts. The wind howled at odd rhythms like breathing. Lex Hart stood at the outer wall again, soaked and tired. But his mind was sharp. He hadn't slept since he found the buried alien machine in the hills. Earth Command had sent one message: observe, do not engage. But Lex couldn't wait. He knew what he saw. A storm that smelled of plastic and fire. A machine with no signature. A fake storm hiding something dangerous. He walked outside the gates once again, armed only with a scanner, his old knife and instinct. The storm followed him like a shadow. As he moved toward the valley, he kept sniffing the air. Still there, he muttered. Still the same chemical trace. But stronger. He climbed a small ridge and looked down into a wide clearing. The trees below had fallen in a perfect circle, not from wind, from heat. Lex crouched and touched the blackened ground. It was still warm. Suddenly, he heard something, a low hum. Not from the sky. From below. He pressed his ear to the ground. It was pulsing. Like a giant heart, he whispered. There's more under here. Back at the colony, Captain Doran reviewed new satellite images. The scans now showed two more strange heat sources buried beneath the hills. One of them was moving. His second-in-command, LT, Carver, looked nervous. "Sir, they're active. Whatever they are." "They're waking up," Doran frowned. "And Hart's already out there alone," Carver nodded. "He left at dawn, refused backup." Doran sighed. "He's reckless, but he's been right so far." Lex slowly made his way across the clearing. The wind suddenly stopped. The storm quieted. There was no sound at all, now not even birds. Not even insects. Then crack. The ground beneath him split open. Lex jumped back as a section of the earth collapsed inward. Dirt, roots, and rocks fell into a hole at least 20 feet deep. From inside came a faint blue glow. He crept closer and looked down. A round metal shape rested below, half buried. It looked like a giant eye, sealed shut. Tubes ran from it in every direction, connecting to something deeper, something hidden. Lex pulled out his scanner. No readings, no power levels. It was like the machine wanted to be invisible. "Cloaking from our tech," he said softly. "But not from me." He sniffed again. It wasn't just burnt plastic this time. It was oil, something industrial, and something organic. His eyes narrowed. "It's not just a machine." He climbed down carefully, boots sliding on the dirt walls of the pit. The closer he got, the stronger the smell became. He reached the base of the machine and touched it. It was warm. Suddenly, the eye began to open. A single blue light stared at him. No words, no sound. But Lex felt something, not hate. Curiosity. Then, fear. The eye closed quickly. Lex backed away, heart pounding. "They're not just machines," he whispered. "They think." Behind him, a loud click echoed. He spun around, raising his scanner. 3 long, thin rods rose from the dirt, forming a tall tower. On top of it, a black orb flickered to life. It began to scan the area. Lex ducked behind a rock, breathing fast. "They're tracking movement," he whispered. But then the orb paused and turned toward him. Lex stayed frozen. The orb beeped once, then powered down. He didn't move. After a long minute, it sank back into the ground. Lex stood up slowly, confused. "They didn't see me because I wasn't moving." Back at the colony, alarms blared. Another heat signature just came online. Shouted a technician. Captain Doran looked at the screen. "Where?" "Same valley. Near Hart's location. It's active, but it's not doing anything." "Why?" Carver leaned in. "Sir, maybe it's scanning. Then we need to get Hart out of there, now." Lex climbed back up from the pit. He marked the location with his visor, then began searching the nearby forest. As he walked, he noticed something strange. A perfect line of fallen trees. Not broken, not torn, melted. He followed it. Minutes later, he found the source. A second machine, taller, sleeker. Half its body blended into the rock wall. But this one wasn't buried. It had legs. Lex crouched behind a log, eyes wide. The machine stood silently. No sound, no movement. But around it, the smell was strong burnt oil and metal mixed with something sharp, almost like ammonia. He whispered, "This one's mobile." Suddenly, the machine shifted. It took one slow step forward. Lex tensed. Another step. Then it stopped. Its head turned toward the sky, as if listening. Then, a panel on its side opened. Inside, a small drone floated out round, silent, with a blinking red light. Lex's eyes followed the drone as it rose into the air and zipped off toward the colony. "No," he said. He stood up and threw a stone at the machine. The rock hit the metal leg. With a loud clang, the machine froze. Then it turned its head directly toward him. Lex didn't run. He sniffed the air one last time. "There's fuel in the dirt," he whispered. He reached into his pack, pulled out a flare. and lit it. The machine stepped forward. Lex dropped the flare. The fuel caught fire instantly. Flames raced across the ground, surrounding the machine in seconds. It backed away, confused. Fire wasn't dangerous, but the smoke was thick. Thick enough to block its vision. Lex ran. He ran back toward the pit, down into the valley. The storm above began to spin again. Behind him, the machine didn't chase. Instead, it stood still, as if it had never seen fire before. When Lex returned to the colony, he went straight to the command center. Captain Doran stared at him. "We tracked another machine," Lex nodded. "Saw it. It can walk, and it can send drones." Carver asked, "Did it see you?" Lex shook his head. "I think. It's blind, not the way we are. It uses movement, sound, maybe heat, but it can't smell. And it can't process confusion." Doran leaned forward. "Explain." Lex took a deep breath. "I lit a fire. It didn't react like a soldier. It reacted like an animal, like it didn't understand what smoke was. That means they don't know Earth. They don't know nature. They only know systems." Doran nodded slowly. "So what's your suggestion?" Lex replied, "We use what they can't detect: smell, sound, confusion, chaos, Earth's oldest weapons." Carver said quietly, "You're saying we fight machines with instincts?" Lex gave a tired smile. "Exactly." That night, as the colony prepared for a possible attack, Lex sat outside, watching the storm move again. The machines were still hiding in the hills, but now they knew humans were near. What they didn't know was that humans had already learned their weakness. And Lex's heart, who followed the scent of danger, was ready. He looked up at the black sky. "Let's see what else you're hiding." Lex's heart woke up with the smell of metal in his nose. He wasn't inside the colony anymore. He had set up a tent near the outer cliffs, away from noise, away from machines. The colony had grown too loud, too blind. They trusted scanners, satellites, and data. Lex trusted his nose. He sat up and sniffed the air. The morning breeze carried more than just dirt and damp grass. There it was again, thin, sharp, and wrong. "Same scent," he muttered. "They're close." He got dressed quickly and grabbed his old leather journal. He didn't use a tablet. He wrote with a pen, making maps and marking smell trails. He flipped to the latest page. The wind had shifted from the north during the night. That meant the new machine, or whatever it was, had moved. He followed the scent. The hills outside the colony were empty. No drones, no sounds. The storm that once hung over them had moved further west, but the air still felt heavy. Lex walked slowly, stopping every few meters to smell again. He crouched near a patch of grass and touched the soil. It was moist, but not from rain. He sniffed. Again, "Coolant," he whispered. They were here. Suddenly, a whisper of static buzzed in his earpiece. "Lex, come in." It was LT. "Carver." "I'm here," Lex answered. "You're not going to like this," Carver said. One of the colony's patrol bots went missing. No signals, no tracking. It just vanished. Lex's eyes narrowed. "Where?" Carver hesitated. "Northern cliffs, just below your position." Lex frowned. "I'll check it out." He cut the connection and started down the path toward the cliffs. At the edge of a high rock wall, Lex found the patrol bot, or what was left of it. Its body had been cut clean in half. No blast marks, no burns, just sliced. Inside, the wires had melted. Something had sent a high-frequency current straight through it. But more importantly, something else caught his attention. Lex leaned down and smelled the metal casing. Usual scent of oil and power cells was there, but beneath it, hidden, was a new smell. Sweet, faint, artificial. Like perfume. "Not ours," he muttered. He sniffed the air again. The smell came from deeper inside the cliff. Lex stepped back and looked at the stone wall. To the naked eye, it looked solid, but he could feel warmth coming from one part. He placed both hands against the rock. It vibrate. Then he smiled. They built a tunnel, he whispered. And they didn't think we'd smell it. Back at the colony, the council held an emergency meeting. Captain Doran slammed his fist on the table. We're being played. They're hiding under our feet. And we've only found 2 machines so far. What if there are more? One of the engineers asked, "What about Lex Hart?" "He's near the cliffs," said Carver. "He just reported." Another scent trail. The council leader frowned. "Scent? Are we really basing our defense on one man's nose?" Carver stood up. "With respect, ma'am, that nose saved us twice already." Doran added, "He found cloaked machines with no radar trace. He stopped the drone alert. And now he's leading us to a hidden tunnel." The room fell silent. Then the council leader nodded. "Very well. Give him what he needs." Lex moved through the tunnel with care. The air grew colder the deeper he went, but the scent remained. Sweet, chemical, and strange. He whispered to himself, "Why mask a tunnel with perfume? Unless it's not just a tunnel." The walls weren't made of rock. Not anymore. They were smooth metal, painted to look like stone. Alien tech camouflage. Then he heard it. Click, click, click. Soft footsteps. But not human. Lex ducked behind a ridge. A tall figure walked past him. Thin legs, wide shoulders, no face. Its head was a spinning circle of sensors. It didn't walk. Like a robot, it glided. Lex held his breath. It paused. Sniffed the air, but nothing happened. Lex realized something. "They can't smell me," he whispered. He waited until the machine was gone, then continued deeper. The tunnel opened into a large underground chamber. And Lex froze. Dozens of machines stood in a circle, linked by wires and glowing threads. In the center, a tall cylinder rose from the ground. It pulsed with blue light. A voice echoed soft, cold, not human. "Unit 3, status incomplete. Earth resistance not calculated. Adjust sequence." Lex's eyes widened. They were learning. They were talking, but they didn't see him. He crouched and sniffed the air again. Then he smiled. "Too many smells," he whispered. "They can't separate human from machine in here." That was their flaw. Lex backed away slowly, leaving the chamber. Unseen. Back on the surface, Lex met with Captain Doran and Carver. "They have a base underground," he said. "They're testing Earth's reactions, recording everything." Doran asked, "How big is the base?" "Too big," Lex said. "But I found their weak spot." Carver leaned in. "Their scent blindness?" Lex nodded. "Exactly. They mask. They're tech with fake smells, but it confuses their own sensors. Down there, they couldn't even tell I was human." Doran asked, "So what do we do?" Lex grinned. "We mess with their noses." That night, Lex led a small team to the tunnel entrance. Each soldier carried bottles filled with different strong smells Earth scents. Fish oil, vinegar, old fuel, soap, even flowers. They poured them along the tunnel walls. Lex explained. "They track by heat and shape, but if we overload their scent grid, they'll misfire. They'll think enemies are everywhere." The soldiers moved fast, leaving trails of mixed smells in every tunnel they found. And then, Lex placed one more thing inside the main chamber. A timer bomb, not a big one, just loud enough to make them. Panic. Minutes later, the chamber shook from the blast. Inside, the machines activated in panic. Enemy detected. Too many targets. Error source unknown. Attack all intruders. But there were none, only the smell of Earth confusion. The machines began to fire at shadows, at each other, at their own systems. Lex watched from a safe ridge above as the chamber turned into chaos. He whispered, "They may have tech, but we have senses." By morning, the colony received a message from Earth Command. Confirmed. Enemy activity rising. Prepare for war. Captain Doran looked at Lex. "You ready to lead this?" Lex simply nodded. Let them bring more machines. We'll outsmart every single one. The battle had only just begun, but thanks to one man and his genius nose, humanity now had a plan, and the galaxy would never forget the scent of defeat. Lex's heart stood at the edge of the forest just beyond Colony Station 9, staring at the sky. The storm had returned, but this time, it wasn't spreading across the land like before. It was staying still, sitting above one exact spot like a dark eye watching the ground dots. Something was wrong. Lex sniffed the air. At first, it smelled like wet leaves and soil. But deeper in the wind was that strange mix again, burnt plastic, oil, and something sharp. He muttered to himself, "That's not natural." Behind him, LT. Carver arrived, breathing hard. "Command says we're on alert. Something's coming. Or already here." Lex nodded, eyes locked on the storm. "They're not attacking this time. They're waiting." Waiting for what? Lex took another deep breath, then whispered, "For me." Later that day, Captain Doran stood in the command center, watching. Radar screens blink with confusion. There's a clear zone forming in the middle of the storm. The tech officer reported. "It's not moving with the wind, it's just holding." Doran frowned. "Any signs of life?" "None. No machines either. Just Nothing." Doran turned to Carver. "Where's Hart?" Carver answered, "He's already inside the storm." Doran's hands tightened. "Alone?" Carver nodded. "He said they're trying to trap him, and he wants to walk into it." Lex moved deeper into the strange stillness. The forest had grown too quiet. Birds had flown away. No animals moved. Even the wind seemed to avoid this place. He followed the scent. It was thick now, like burnt rubber mixed with cold air. His boots sank slightly into the wet ground. Then the forest ended. In front of him stretched an empty field, perfectly round. Too perfect. Lex narrowed his eyes. "This isn't nature," he whispered. At the center of the field was a small black device, no bigger than a box. It pulsed with blue light. Lex didn't move. He bent down, picked up a stick, and tossed it toward the device. Nothing happened. He stepped forward slow, careful. When he was just a few feet away, the ground beneath him opened with a click. Lex jumped back, but the trap had already been triggered. A thin beam of blue light shot up from the box and surrounded him in a dome of energy. He was trapped. A voice echoed from above, "Not human. Not angry, just cold. Subject identified, Lex Hart. Analysis beginning." Lex looked around. The energy dome felt like glass. He touched it, solid and smooth. "No way out," he smirked. "So you want to study me now?" Back at the colony, alarms rang. "We lost contact with Hart," shouted the tech officer. Captain Doran stepped forward. "What do you mean?" He crossed the signal line. "He's inside their zone, and now he's gone. No radio, no tracker, nothing." Carver cursed under his breath. "They caught him." Doran looked at the storm map. "Or worse there. Using him to lure us in." Inside the dome, Lex sat down and closed his eyes. He could feel vibrations under the ground, machines moving, watching, recording. The voice returned. "Human behavior, calm, unusual, initiating new test." Suddenly, the dome changed color from blue to red. The air grew hot. Lex felt sweat on his back, but still, he didn't move. He whispered, "You think heat will scare me?" He sniffed the air. There it was again, a new smell. Not plastic or oil. Not chemical. This was alive. His eyes opened wide. "You're not just machines," he said aloud. "You're part organic." The dome shimmered in response. Lex stood up. "You've been hiding in weather, copying nature. But you made a mistake." He sniffed again, deeper. "This isn't tech. This is breathing. You're alive. You're scared." Far below the surface, in a hidden alien control chamber, strange creatures watched Lex on glowing screens. One of them turned to the others. Subject is reading chemical signals through scent. This ability was underestimated. Another responded. Initiate full containment. Do not let him out. Back inside the dome, Lex took out a small metal capsule. Inside was a strong-smelling oil, made from Earth's native plants. He opened it and threw it on the ground. The scent spread fast. Thick and wild. The energy dome flickered. Error, the voice said. External contamination detected. Lex smiled. Let's confuse your sensors. He took another capsule and threw it in a different direction. This one had animal scent bear musk. Multiple life signs detected. The voice said. The dome pulsed. Lex pulled out a final capsule and rolled it across the field. It exploded with a hissing smoke of vinegar and fish oil. The dome shattered. Lex ran. He moved fast through the open field, dodging as beams of blue light fired from hidden machines. They were guessing now, blinded by the smells, unsure of where he was. Behind him, a tall creature rose from the earth, metal and flesh combined. Walking on long legs, with no eyes. It sniffed the air. Then turned the wrong way. Lex had already doubled back and slipped into the forest. Back at the colony, the command center buzzed. Sir, we have a signal. Heart's alive. Doran leaned forward. Where is he? He's moving away from the trap zone. Fast. Carver grinned. He escaped. Doran smiled for the first time in days. Of course he did. Lex arrived back at the colony gates, dirty, tired, but smiling. He was greeted by a cheering team. Carver walked up. What happened in there? Lex shook his head. They made a mistake. They thought I was just another soldier. Doran stepped forward. And what are you really? Lex replied, someone who smells fear. Later, Lex sat with the science team, explaining everything. They're mixing tech with living tissue. That's why their scent changed. They're learning from Earth, trying to become invisible by copying nature. He paused, but nature has rules, and they're breaking them. The lead scientist asked, how do we fight that? Lex looked out the window at the fading storm. We fight it with the one thing they can't copy, he said. Human instinct. High above Colony Station 9, in a sleek alien ship, Commander Vesh leaned over a glowing map. The galaxy spread before him like a dark ocean full of unknown dangers. But one thing caught his attention: Earth. A small blue world that shouldn't be so dangerous. Yet here they were, fighting. Commander, a voice whispered behind him. Vesh turned. A scout drone floated beside him, blinking red lights. Report. The drone's tiny voice buzzed. Humans near storm origin point. They are tracking our machines, Vesh frowned. How? Their sensors should fail in the storm. Their machines cannot penetrate the cloaking fields. Not all humans use machines, sir, the drone replied. One male Lex Hart uses a different method. Vesh's eyes narrowed. Different method? His sense of smell. He detects chemical traces invisible to our tech. Vesh laughed softly. Smell? They rely on such crude senses? Apparently, he tracked and disabled several machines using this ability. The commander's smile faded. Interesting. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lex sat with LT Carver and Captain Doran, reviewing satellite footage. Commander Vesh watches us, Doran said. He thinks we're weak. Lex shook his head. He's wrong. They don't understand humans. Carver asked, what? Now? Lex pointed to a blinking red dot on the map. That's their forward base. Near the old mining crater. I want to scout it. Doran looked worried. Lex, it's dangerous. You could walk into a trap, Lex grinned. That's why I'm taking. The team will use what they can't see, our noses. The team moved silently through the thick forest, their boots soft on the wet ground. Lex led, sniffing constantly. Here, he said, stopping. The air smells different, like burnt oil mixed with something sweet. They're close, Carver squinted. I see nothing, Lex smiled. Exactly. They advanced, careful, and slow. Suddenly, a faint buzzing filled the air. Drones, whispered one soldier. Lex held up a hand. Wait, he sniffed harder. They're coming from above, but they don't know where we are. A drone zoomed past, close enough to see. Lex pointed. It's blind. It moves by sound and heat, but it can't smell. The teen smiled. Suddenly, the bushes rustled. Soldiers raised weapons. From the shadows stepped an alien scout, a tall figure with shining metal limbs and glowing blue eyes. It didn't speak. It only watched. Lex stepped forward. You're not as smart as you think. The alien tilted its head, scanning Lex. Then, unexpectedly, it retreated. Carver asked, Why? Lex sniffed the air. It smells confusion. The scout wasn't ready for humans who use senses it couldn't process. Later, near the base, Lex found the remains of a small battle, scorch marks, broken machines, and a trail of smoke. He crouched and sniffed. Smell this, he said. This is the scent of fear. Carver frowned. Fear? Lex nodded. Yes, it's not just a feeling, it's chemical. And it's strong here. Suddenly, a voice crackled on the radio. Enemy drones inbound. Prepare for attack. The sky darkened with dozens of buzzing machines. The aliens had found them. Lex raised his rifle. Hold steady. Don't shoot until I say. The drones flew low, searching. Lex sniffed the air, then smiled. They're confused. How? I sprayed old fuel around our camp. The smell makes their sensors malfunction. A drone crashed into a tree. Another spun wildly, firing at nothing. The team laughed quietly. Suddenly, one drone locked onto Lex. It fired a beam that hit the ground near him. Lex rolled behind a rock. More coming, shouted Carver. Lex peeked out. The drones were attacking each other, lost in the confusion of smells. Keep moving, Lex ordered. They ran through the forest, dodging beams and leaping over roots. Lex led them to a hidden cave. Inside, he paused. Listen, he said. A faint mechanical hum vibrated through the cave walls. They have sensors here, he whispered. Carver asked, How do we beat them? Lex smiled. By being unpredictable. He pulled out a bottle of strong-smelling oil. We flood the cave with this scent. They'll think it's a new enemy. The teen nodded. They poured the oil across the cave floor. The scent spread quickly. Outside, the alien commander watched on his screen. Enemy activity rising, the drone reported. Their tactics are evolving, Vesh frowned. They adapt. Quickly, prepare reinforcements. Back in the cave, the machines inside began to malfunction. Lights flickered. Sensors scrambled. The drones outside turned on each other. Lex whispered, This is just the start. At the colony, Captain Doran watched the battle updates. Lex is holding them off, he said, relief in his voice. Carver smiled. We're not just fighting machines. We're fighting their fear of us. Lex looked at the sky, dark but clearing. We fight not just with weapons, he said. We fight with senses, with mind, with heart. The enemy watched, but humanity was ready, and the galaxy was about to see what it really meant to fight humans who could smell chaos and turn it into victory. The morning was quiet, too quiet. Lex's heart stood alone near the edge of a broken cliff. Smoke rose gently in the distance from the destroyed drone nest they had wiped out the night before. The sun peeked through the dark clouds above, but something in the air felt wrong. He sniffed once. Then again, his eyes narrowed. That's not possible, he whispered. Footsteps approached behind him. LT, Carver's voice broke the silence. We did it, Lex. Drones are down. Vesh will think twice before sending more. Lex didn't turn. He kept sniffing the air. Carver. Smell. That. Carver frowned and stepped closer. I don't smell anything. Lex shook his head slowly. Exactly. That's the problem. Back at the underground base, Lex paced in front of the tactical board. Maps, satellite feeds, and scent charts filled the room. Carver and Captain Doran watched him nervously. "Explain," Doran said. "There's always a smell," Lex muttered. "Smoke, oil, metal, fuel, even the trees, everything gives off a scent. But this morning, there was nothing. The air was empty." Doran raised an eyebrow. "That's good, right? Maybe the enemy's gone." "No," Lex said firmly. "That's worse. This is a new trick. Something's covering their scent. Something not natural." Carver folded his arms. "Could it be the storm again?" Lex stared at him. "No, this is artificial. It's like something erased the air." Doran looked serious now. "You're saying the enemy developed a cloaking scent?" Lex nodded. "Or worse, a negative scent, something that cancels smells. That shouldn't exist." That night, the wind blew harder. Lex stood alone on the cliff again. He took out a small vial from his coat and sniffed. Nothing. He threw it aside. He reached into his bag and pulled out an old earth item, a dog whistle. "This isn't for sound," he muttered. "It's to see if anything reacts." He blew it. No sound came. But after a few seconds, he saw something. Movement. A ripple in the air, like heat waves. Something invisible shifted between the trees. Lex crouched low. "So you are there." Suddenly, a sharp metallic click echoed behind him. He turned fast, just in time to see a strange creature step forward. It wasn't like the others. No metal armor. No glowing eyes. This one looked human. The creature smiled, but its face flickered like a bad video feed. "Hello, Lex Hart," it said. In perfect English. Lex raised his rifle. "You're not real," he said. "Real enough," the creature answered. "I was made to blend in perfectly. No sound, no scent, no trace." Lex stepped back. "You're the smell that shouldn't exist." The creature tilted its head. "You're clever. That's why Vesh sent me." Lex smirked. He's scared. The creature's face flickered again. "He should be." It lunged. Lex fired. The shot passed through it like mist. Lex ran. Through trees, over rocks, heart pounding. The creature didn't chase with footsteps. It just appeared. In front of him. To the side. Behind. It was like trying to run from smoke. He reached his base. Slammed the door shut. Carver met him in the hallway. "Lex, what happened?" Lex grabbed his arm. "Sound the alert. There's a new infiltrator. Looks like us, smells like nothing." Carver's face went pale. "We won't be able to track it," Lex nodded. "Not unless we change the rules." In the lab, Lex stood over a table filled with earth herbs, onion, garlic, chili, sulfur. "What's the plan?" Doran asked. Lex crushed garlic in his hand. "They can't copy everything. We'll flood the base with smells they don't understand. Strong ones, natural ones." Carver chuckled nervously. "We're fighting aliens with spices?" Lex smiled. "That's how humans win. By doing what no one else dares." That night, the base was filled with powerful scents. Everyone wore masks to handle the burning smells. Lex waited in the command room. Lights dimmed. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A figure entered, wearing a human face. Lex stood still. "You don't belong here," he said. The figure smiled. "No one will believe you." Lex lifted a small chili pepper. The figure's smile faded. "What is that?" Lex stepped closer. "Something you can't handle." He crushed the pepper. A wave of scent exploded through the air. The figure screamed. Face glitching, melting. "You tricked. "Me." Lex grabbed his rifle. "No, I outsmelled you." He fired. This time, the shot connected. The creature dropped, its body fading into a pool of strange metal and light. Doran watched the footage afterward. "We're going to need more garlic," he muttered. Lex chuckled. "The enemy tried to erase us. But in doing so, they created something unnatural. Something that couldn't survive in a world full of smells, of memories, of chaos." Carver asked, "What now?" Lex looked at the sky. "We changed the game again. Let them think they've erased everything. But humans? We always leave a trace." The storm outside grew louder, but this time the humans were ready, because the only thing scarier than an enemy you can smell is one you can't, and now humanity had learned to hunt both. The storm had arrived again, louder, stronger, and stranger than ever before. Thunder cracked across the sky as rain poured down in thick, burning sheets. It wasn't just water anymore. The Vesh had changed it. Every drop carried microscopic machines, invisible to the eye, but dangerous to human skin and lungs. Most soldiers stayed deep underground. Except Lex Hart. He stood near the surface, inside the observation dome, watching the chaos. Outside, lightning danced wildly, cutting the sky into pieces. But he wasn't afraid. He was planning something. Carver climbed up beside him, breathing through a heavy filter mask. "You're going up again, aren't you?" Lex didn't answer right away. Instead, he pointed toward the western hills. "See that line of blue?" he said. "That's not lightning. It's a pulse, a signal. They're using the storm like a shield." Carver squinted through the glass. "We can't fight weather, Lex, and we can't fly anything in this mess." Lex turned to him, calm but focused. "That's the problem. They're counting on that. So we'll give them what they're not expecting." In the control room deep underground, Lex stood before the commanders. "We've been reacting this whole time," he said. "Running, hiding, waiting. But it's time we stop treating this storm like a curse." Captain Doran frowned. "It is a curse. We've lost good people in it." Lex nodded. "Yes, but if we can't stop it, let's use it." The room fell. "Quiet, what do you mean?" asked Dr. Mira, the science officer. Lex pulled up a map on the screen. "The storm isn't natural. It's artificial. The Vesh control it. They hide signals, power bursts, even ships inside it. But they've made one mistake." He zoomed in on a storm pattern. "They forgot that humans adapt. We listen, we watch, and sometimes we smell." Later that night, inside the makeshift lab, Lex and Mira worked side by side. "What's that?" Mira asked, pointing at the strange cylinder Lex placed on the table. "Storm reverter," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "You built a weather weapon out of spice extract and old drone tech?" Lex grinned. "Basically. Chili oil, copper plating, and a modified air disruptor." Mira looked amazed. "This is either brilliant or completely insane," he laughed. "Let's hope it's both." The next day, Lex climbed into the launcher pod. Rain smashed against the outer walls like knives. The storm roared louder than jet engines. Through the coms, Carver's voice came through, worried but steady. "Pod ready." "You sure about this?" "Not at all," Lex said. "But when was I ever?" He pulled down the lever. The pod launched like a missile, straight into the heart of the storm. The world became fire and wind. Everything shook. Static filled his ears, then silence. He was in the eye, still alive. Inside the storm center, Lex saw something that chilled him. Massive Vesh towers floated in the air, silent, humming, spreading pulses of energy across the sky. They were hidden from scanners, but not from Lex's nose. The air smelled wrong, metal, ozone, and something bitter, sharp, and fake. Lex gritted his teeth. "Found you." He pulled out the storm reverter and slammed it onto the console. He twisted the dial to maximum. A loud hum began, then a scream not human. The air shivered. Clouds twisted. Blue lightning turned orange. The reverter was working. It was breaking. Their control. Down at base, Doran and Carver watched the sky. "What's happening?" Doran asked. Mira shouted. "Lex did it. Look at the readings. The storm's breaking apart." Suddenly, the base sensors detected Vesh ships previously hidden, now exposed. Doran turned to the weapons team. "Fire everything while they're Blind, up in the storm, Lex struggled to stay awake. The pod was shaking hard, sparks flew. The console exploded, but he smiled, because outside, the sky was clearing. Rain turned to mist. The towers faded, and for the first time in days, sunlight touched Earth. Back at the base, Carver ran to the edge of the cliff as a flaming object crashed down. It was Lex's pod. Smoke rose from it. Then the door burst open. Lex stumbled out, coughing and burned, but alive. Carver grabbed him in a hug. "You're insane," Lex grinned weakly. "Yeah, but it worked." That evening, the humans stood on the surface again. No storm. No strange wind. Just stars above. Doran walked up to Lex. "You turned the storm against them." Lex looked up at the sky. "They thought chaos would break us, but humans? We were born in chaos." He sniffed the air. No more poison. Just earth, smoke, and sky. Lex smiled. "The storm is ours now." And somewhere high above, the Vesh finally realized they weren't the only ones who could control the skies. The silence was heavy. Too heavy. Lex's heart stood at the edge of the crater where the last Vesh tower had fallen. The wind was still. The clouds above no longer moved like angry beasts. The war, at least this part of it, was over, but something felt wrong, very wrong. Carver approached, his boots crunching softly over broken stone and ash. "Lex, they're saying it's done. All towers down. Ships gone. We won." Lex didn't answer. He kept staring into the crater, deep in thought. His eyes narrowed. "No," he said quietly. "Something's still here." Inside the base, Dr. Mira ran her hands over the final scans. Readings still pulsed faint, strange, and not matching any known Vesh tech. "They left something," she said aloud. Her assistant looked over. "A weapon?" Mira shook her head. "I don't think so. It's not just tech, it's alive." Lex returned to the command room, breathing hard. "There's something still active in that crater, and I smelled it." Carver rolled his eyes, again with the smell. Lex frowned. "Carver, every step of this war, I've followed their scent. Their metal, their toxins, their machines, but this was different. It smelled clean, almost human." Mira turned sharply. "You said alive earlier. What do you mean?" Lex looked at her, then at the monitor. "I think the Vesh left something behind. A copy, a mimic." The room went silent. Mira spoke slowly. "A clone?" Lex nodded. "Or worse, a replacement." Later that night, a scream echoed across the base. Soldiers rushed into the hallway, weapons raised. They found a technician on the floor, eyes wide, lips blue. Dead. But not from